Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Process Podcast.
Brandon Hasick, welcome to the Process Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Yeah, it's good. It's Friday night. Like I said, beer drinking time, but I made the exception.
And I please pass on my apologies to all your friends who you sacked off tonight for this momentous occasion.
That'll be fine.
Brandon, tell me, who is Brandon Hasick?
Ooh, all right. So me, Brandon Hasick, currently gym owner ×3. Currently dad, just turned dad 4 months ago. So enjoying that process of raising epic little boy. I went through uni and did a sports science degree. That's probably where it all started. If we want to go back to that, it was the uni degree with the idea of being a physio was the ultimate goal. But then I enjoyed the process of the fitness, being on the front side of preventing injuries as opposed to being on, the backside of treating them, and really just enjoyed being around people and using training as a vehicle to, one of our taglines is expanding human potential. So that was pretty exciting for me. So I sort of finished my sports science degree and then went straight into just training people, and it kicked off, faster than I thought. And at the time, it felt quite slow, but looking back, it obviously did go quite quickly because we've got 3 gyms now. I do the coaching academy, which is where we coach coaches to be, world-class coaches in our definition of that. I've recently created a company called Kaizen, co-founded that, where we do business consulting for other gym owners, that I can teach them the experience that I've had from owning 3 gyms, working with 30 odd staff over the years. And I dabble in a few other sort of startup companies as well. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell for now.
What is Body by Brando?
So that's the gyms. That's it started off with me, and I thought it was just a really funny name at the time. I didn't really expect it to go too much further than being a PT or potentially being a single gym. So Body by Brando is the fitness company that we run, which is business to client facing. So that's where we have people come into our gyms or run our online programs with the intention of, transforming the way they look, move, and feel. So we sort of run with the pillars of transforming physique, transforming performance, and transforming their life, I suppose, is the ultimate outcome.
Awesome. And you said you got 3 gyms now.
Yeah, we've got Bondi Junction. We've got Waterloo, and North Sydney is our latest one.
Could you give me some context, Brando? Like, how long ago did you graduate uni? How long after uni did Body by Brando start? And how far down the journey are we now?
Graduated 2013 after an epic sort of gap year where I came over to England and studied my last 6 months in England, and then came back and just finished off one subject to finish in 2013. And I must have started in 2014, the Body by Brando brand. I remember drawing their logo on pieces of paper while I was working for another company. So I just started my PT career for another company and just must have been ambitious enough to really think I could make my own company. So started drawing the logo, created an Instagram account, started posting photos in 2014, I reckon.
So
and that's where it started.
So you're an 8-year business.
Yeah, 8 years in now.
I want to rewind a little bit. Let's go back to Brandon Hasick pre-university. Like growing up, were you a sporty kid? Like, was training always part of your life? Did you always envision you'd be doing what you're doing now? Like, take me through those years.
Yeah. Growing up, always sporty, and I was probably like the younger I was more athletic, and then as I was growing through and like the pubescent years, I started to slowly deteriorate compared to everyone else because they were getting bigger, stronger, faster, and I wasn't sort of seeing that progress like I was before. Like, I think I was more skillful than, performance based. So as they got bigger and I didn't, I was quite late bloomer. I feel like that was sort of the separator for me, and I was like, chances of me playing cricket for Australia are fairly slim at this stage, or rugby league. And I kept getting injured a fair bit. So that's sort of, I think, drummed into me why I'm so pedantic around moving well, staying injury free, because I've been on that front end of what it feels like to miss out on things by being injured. So I think that's why the standard of movements come through the business side of things, because I really wanted to help. I think that's why I wanted to go into physiotherapy at the time, was because I really wanted to help people stay away from pain and to live their true potential by being on the field more.
What were some of the injuries you had?
Shoulders have always been like real subluxy, so they'll just like wobble around. Like that's been my biggest gripe, even through sort of my functional fitness career, is like dislocating shoulders left, right, and center. I'm hypermobile, so that's sort of like a double-edged sword where it looks really cool to be able to move well, but my problem is stability. So I can hit end range positions and then it just hurts for weeks because it probably shouldn't have been that far. So injuries, knees, just everything tendony, like a lot of soft tissue damage over the years from pushing the extremes.
That's funny. Like I think we have very similar backstories as athletes. Like always had aspirations to want to be a competitive professional athlete. Feel like I was always the smaller one, also a bit of a late bloomer, and also was riddled with injuries. And that's also what has, had such an impact on the way that I view like not even just exercise prescription, but just health and wellness, and thinking more about the sustainability side of things. I also had, I've had 2 reconstructions on both shoulders, loads of subluxations, dislocations, but the complete opposite to you. Definitely not hypermobile. In fact, the complete opposite. Just carried so much. It was carried so much tension that it was every time, and rugby was mainly my main sport. It was every time there was a collision and the joint would get taken out of a position that it had stability in. That's always where it would tear, or it would pop, or it would go. So very different problems.
There you go.
So clearly that's had an impact on your sporting career, and that, that's why you went to pursue like physiotherapy. Coming out of physiotherapy at university, like what did that personal training journey look like for you? What did that coaching journey look like for you?
Yeah, the first thing I did, I was able to get my Cert 3 and 4, which in Australia is like, your ticket to be able to coach people one-on-one and in group settings. And I was just in my local town where I grew up, and there was a 24/7 gym there. I was like, hey, can I use the space, bring some clients in, and sort of went that route, and had a few friends that I trained for, I reckon, $40 a session. So anyone who's listening now that I train now, they're going to $40 a session. But obviously wasn't very good, had no idea what I was doing, because you can't just take what you've done and expect that to work for someone else. So you've learned a lot over the years. And then I moved into the city, so living near the beaches now, and got a job at one of the franchises that does personal training, which was really cool. It just wasn't my style. Like they were doing fat loss for 40, 50-year-old women, and they had great structures on how they did it. They ran like a McDonald's for fat loss, which I thought was pretty cool. It just wasn't where I wanted to be long term, but I learned a lot from working at it's called Vision Personal Training.
I feel like it sounds like you had a lot of clarity already on who you wanted to work with and what you wanted to be about as a coach at a really young age. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, I think so. Like I really knew if I was going to do it, and I just sort of had that ambition and drive. I think everyone's dream to come out of uni is to work with sporting populations, especially, like you get your exercise phys degree or physio, and you want to work for a sporting team, being naturally sporty. Like I think that's what most people wanted to do. I sort of had that idea at one stage, and then after that I was like, well, why not just make a sporty population out of the general pop? Like, why not just make my own niche of people? I'm sure there's people out there like myself who want to train hard, train like an athlete, but probably want a career as well. They want to have a family, they want to have a career, and they're driven people, and they want to be like the top of their game in the physical performance realm, but they probably don't want to play high level sports. So I was like, cool, there's probably a niche for that.
That's cool that you had that clarity so early on. I think most coaches have been and tried so many different things, and eventually it's probably like a process of elimination, get to their niche, to finding out who they really want to be working with and what they want to be doing,
Yeah, I think it's just, I've always been interested in high performers and just the mindset of people that actually get things done. So I think it was probably self-selection stage where my attitude to people that weren't in that sort of niche probably self-selected themselves out. Like, that's why everyone always asks, we look at Body by Brando's Instagram page and everyone looks shredded. A lot of people aren't shredded. Like, not every single person comes in with 6% body fat. We have a lot of clients who aren't, but I think creating that environment where you can sort of see that the people there do want to work hard. So I suppose we just attract those people that do want to get to the next level.
Can you talk me through like the evolution of Body by Brando? So like, what did it look like when you first set it up? Like, did you set up as a sole proprietor? Like, were you just the only guy and it was just you?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's why you called it Body by Brando.
Yeah. Hindsight, I probably wouldn't have if I thought I was going to scale to multiple gyms. But yeah, no, I do love this story because I sort of enjoy telling this story because it's been fun. I went from Vision. There was a new gym that popped up. I'll tell this quickly because it was called F45. I'm sure you've heard of it by now, but at the stage, it was very new. And I was like, cool, this is functional fitness. This is who I want to work with. It was fun. It was music. And then I started working there. And then very quickly into that, I was like, still not what I want to do. Like, I like the process of gymnastics, barbells, and fitness combined, like fitness, flexibility, and strength. And then I sort of found CrossFit, but found Keegan Smith, who was a bit of a mentor role. And then I was like, cool, I'll come up with a bit of a hybrid between, the elements of CrossFit that I love, the elements of strict gymnastics that I love, and I'll call it Body by Brando. So I started working out of my backyard near the beaches. I had like a slab of concrete in the backyard where I was renting, and the landlord actually had a whole bunch of stuff there, and I just chucked it out one day and was like, hey, this is my gym. And he came around, he got super pissed off, and I had to start, paying back. But that he ended up charging me like $20 a week to use that space. It was the cheapest gym I've ever had and ever will have. So I bought a bunch of equipment, paid for a business coach to teach me the ins and outs of like how to get clients. That worked really, really well. And I got up to like 30 clients. Yeah, probably 20 clients in the backyard. So I was working from my backyard with about 20 clients, making pretty good bank for not much work at the time. And I thought, sweet, this is me now. I'm a full-time PT. From there, we got rained out like literally 4 weeks in a row where we just had the worst winter. It was like 6 a.m. in the freezing cold, obviously not England cold, but Sydney cold. And I was like, shit, if this keeps raining, like all my clients are going to leave. Who wants to train at 6 a.m. in the wet? I've got to find a gym. So I had a mate who helped me find like a small shed at our Paddington location, which became our Paddington location. So I was working out of a double garage type thing, and the guy that I was subleasing from had a gym in the main gym. And then within about 6 months, he was like, oh, I'm going to sell the gym. Do you want to take over my clients and take over the lease? And I was like, fucking oath. So we just moved in there. And that's pretty much how we got our first gym.
It's always funny, like hearing success stories, like the bit of luck that we all tend to get, like that, just very fortunate timing of just things happening and opportunities presenting themselves.
Yeah, it was definitely a kiss on the dick with that because, he had this space and then he ended up just getting rid of it for like pennies on the dollar. And I was super fortunate that I had some savings. We worked out a bit of a payment plan for the gap that I couldn't afford at the time. But I walked in day one and it was like profitable from day one. And there was sub trainers there that were doing, paying me rent. So I was walking in Monday morning, rent was paid. And then I was able to just add in my business model on top. And we just got it to like 80 members super quick. So it was a bit of a cash cow pretty early on.
Can I ask, like this, like you've mentioned functional fitness a few times. You mentioned like F45, then you mentioned CrossFit. Like, how did you cross paths with CrossFit, and what role did CrossFit play in your own training? And I guess eventually it's kind of like moved into your philosophy and how you coach people as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love the philosophy of CrossFit, and I think it's, got to pay homage to them because that's probably the thing that we've modeled off mostly. Their 10 physical skills and adaptation. So if it wasn't for the stigma that came with CrossFit through those years of like getting injured, I think we probably would have affiliated. I try and pay homage as much as I can because I do respect the sport. I respect their philosophy. It's just we didn't go that path of business because I wanted to be able to create our own niche without the stigma that came with like calling ourselves a CrossFit affiliate. I did start at a CrossFit in, out west where I grew up, where, I didn't have a great experience, but I was determined to keep going. Like the first 3 times I went, I think I dislocated my shoulder every time. Like I did a barbell snatch and my shoulder popped out. I was like, oh, that's me. Came back the next week, did kipping pull-ups and shoulder went again. I'm like, fuck, this is dodgy. And then I think I did it one more time. And then,
you were hooked.
I was 3 injuries in. You got me.
When I went to do my level 1 in Singapore, so it was I think it was the very first ever level 1 to come to Asia. And so myself and a couple of my coaches we'll fly down and do it. I was very skeptical. I was more skeptical than a fanboy at this point in time. I kind of just wanted to go down and just hear what it was all about. I had just had a shoulder reconstruction. I think it's probably my third or probably my last one actually. So I was kind of in a sling, and I'd said to them like, listen, I'm kind of not very functional right now, but would love to I would love to do the course. Like I'll sit in on all the lessons, and I know that working out, apparently you do this workout called Fran, but I'll probably have to sit out of that. And I got in and they were like, you're doing Fran. And I'm like, I've got this mat. I'm in a sling at the moment. I just had, I've still got, here's the wound. And they're like, no, you're going to do 1-arm ring rows and 1-arm dumbbell thrusters. And they put me through the ringer hard. In hindsight, I was like, God, that's mental that I even said yes to do that. Cause it was like, obviously I'm young and naive, and I'm a sporty dude. I don't want to be the guy who bitches out of a workout. So I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And I'll go 100%. Obviously, I was, fucked for a good few days after that workout. But anyhow, so you go through this, you dislocate your shoulder 3 times. Like what's keeping you interested?
Yeah, I think it was probably like, it mustn't have been every single time. It probably was a few sessions in between those. Like, I don't know how good my memory was, but I must have had a good time at it. And I really sort of enjoyed the process of like being able to be a generalist at everything, and that accumulate to allowing me to be half decent at it. So it probably self-selected because, I was like, oh, cool. You can be half decent at squats, half decent at pull-ups. I can walk on my hands at that stage because I was doing handstands everywhere. And I was like, oh, this seems like the sport for me. Like, I don't have to be the best at anything. I can just be better than you at most things and I'll win. And I had a bit of an engine. So I suppose I probably enjoyed the fact that I could see myself fitting into the sport long term and actually being half decent at it.
Was there ever a part of you that wanted to pursue the competitive side of it?
Yeah, I think for a few years there, I still do. I think I'm going to give it a good crack next year, if my body holds up. Yeah, I sort of sit around that 150 in Australia, which is nothing to brag about, but I'm happy with that sort of feat for trying to run a few businesses at the same time. But yeah, I can't see myself making regionals or games, that's for sure.
Yeah. Was there any point where, because I remember so many of us at that point in time, in the earlier days, 2014, 15, like you naturally, if you're a coach, you have to be an athlete. And, like you're balancing the two. Did you ever get kind of pulled down that rabbit hole?
I think I was a little bit late being able to be like, because obviously if you watch the first few years, the standards are a lot different to now. Yeah. If I had been like 2009 athlete, there could have been a chance that by 2014 I would have made it, or 15 if I had been an early adopter. But I think by the time I started, I was like 2015, 16. And by that stage, there was, they were snatching 110s and I was dislocating on the empty bar still. So it was, it wasn't, I didn't ever see myself making the whole way, but I did want to give it a good crack and see what I could get to.
I kind of want to go back to you starting coaching people in your back garden. Firstly, that sounds like unbelievable, like on a beach, concrete slab in your house, coach people. But I'm actually really interested in this, like you finding a business coach and a business mentor. Because that was, at the time when I started my business at, 20 years old, I wish that's what I did. And I wish I sought that mentorship and guidance at an early age, but I didn't. what led you to thinking that would be a good thing to do?
It fell across my lap. I was in the course with Keegan. Like, he sort of started his Real Movement Academy back then, which was similar to what we're doing now with our academy, but a little bit different, where essentially he was sort of getting groups of people who are just starting coaching and helping them be better coaches by giving them more information on how to coach. Like, not so much how to coach, but just movements and ideas and philosophies. And so there's a few of us at that time, probably I think it was we were his first round of mentees, and we've all got gyms now. And so it was like almost that environment that he fostered, which was like, cool, like let's all go and create our own gyms. And there was a guy in the group, in the external group, who was running a business course, and just, I think he hooked me. I had no idea he was selling me at the time. He's like, oh, do you want to jump on a call and see how I can help? I was like, oh, sweet. How good is this? The guy's giving me some help. And then it ended up that I had to pay $6,000 for the help, but it was well worth it in the long run.
What's Keegan doing now?
He's got a few things going on. He changes a fair bit, to be honest, but he's got the ATG mentors. So he's doing stuff with Ben Patrick for the coaches, and he's doing the Uncommon Success, which is that next level sort of, physique and money style thing. Like, yeah, you'll have to check it out.
Yeah. No, I guess when I think about Keegan, I think about, he was working with Sonny Bill for a bit, was he not? That was like, that was his like interjection to a bit of fame. And then obviously Ben Patrick and Knees Over Toes, we've actually had on a podcast as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Obviously,
yeah, cool.
that obviously probably launched him onto a way bigger platform. But I feel like the Real Movement stuff, I feel like it went quiet. Or did something happen to Real Movement? Does it not exist now?
It changes a lot. So yeah, I've been involved with Keegan since back then, which was been a massive sort of catalyst, I reckon, for where I'm at. And we always catch up at sort of the right times, and he's doing something that I sort of want to get involved with. I was going to jump in the Real Movement at the time and sort of help sort of come on that next level of coaching coaches, because that's where I was at the time. But he does change his value and what he's offering a fair bit. So that's sort of, it's hard to sort of keep up, to be honest. At the moment, he still does get involved with coaches, but it's just in, different ways sometimes. So sometimes it's about the coaching. Sometimes it's about more setting the ground for bigger long-term success, I suppose, and what's holding them back.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying offline before the call that the first time I heard about you was actually the videos that you were posting on YouTube, and a lot of the stuff around what Ben Patrick had done. So I'd been through the Knees Over Toe program whenever this was, like quite an early iteration of it, and was looking for videos to send to my clients. And every time I went online, I was like, the highest quality videos of an ATG split squat and a knee over toe calf raise or a Patrick step up were always done by this guy, Body by Brando. So I'm going to keep on stealing his videos. And then that's exactly why you do it. So well done.
Yeah, how good. I'm glad it works.
And so tell me about Body by Brando now. Obviously, like, you have 3 locations all in Sydney. Like, what's your mission? What are you guys trying to do? What does the experience look like?
Yeah, so we're really defining that. So a lot of people don't know that I had a Paddington location, and that was going quite well, but I was only really like probably even 2 years in. And I was like, cool, how good this? Got about 100 members. At the time I was making decent coin, which I thought was decent at the time. I was like, cool, let's go and open a second location, because 2 locations double the profit. How easy is that? And then I was like, open this location, and it just pretty much flopped from the get-go. It wasn't in the best spot. It was on a second level, so we started dropping barbells, and neighbors complained, and we just never got traction because I was still so heavily involved with Paddington. That was probably some of the success as to why I was going so well. So when I removed myself from Paddington, that started dipping, and the Artarmon location really struggled, and we ended up, just calling it quits. And we lost I lost a fair bit of money from that, and bruised my ego pretty hard because I wasn't the entrepreneur that I thought I was. But from there, it really led me to be like, all right, well, if I'm going to go again, I want to make systems. So I really want to create a systemized business where it's not all about me, even though it's called Body by Brando, but it's about the outcomes that I can give for people, and I can create mentors that can be multiplied, and hopefully, give clients a great experience no matter if I'm there or not. So right now, we pride ourselves on, transforming physique, performance, and, the perception of people about themselves so that they can, live the best years of their life in the best shape of their life, however they want to define that. And yeah, so the 3 locations, they're cranking, and I've got some great team around me. So I've got a manager in each location, and I spend a lot of time with them, sort of developing them and making sure that the value formula that we have comes across to all of our clients, which is my, dream outcome. Is obviously I did it for the clients, and I did it for helping more people achieve what it's like to have, better physique, better performance, and, think highly of themselves.
So how did you go about starting to scale yourself? Because essentially that's what you did. It was like, it's no longer going to be just about me. I need to now start building a team and delegating. And what did that whole process look like? That's that system of that process of building systems. Sorry.
Yeah. So I just got into Google. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a massive Google fan. So literally documents on everything. So I was like, I just make list after list after list, and the lists all linked to another document. So I'll create a whole bunch of things. I'm like, I try and define everything. And this is what I love about CrossFit as well, is the methodology of how they define everything in black and white. So when we talk about results, we have 4 definitions of what results are. So we talk about physique being, changing someone's body composition. Performance is helping them achieve more across the 7 physical skills that we define as results. So fitness, strength, stamina, those type of things, flexibility. Then we define that. Then we started defining what value was and how we could charge that. So we talk about, when a client comes to us, we have to make sure the perceived value that they get is more than what we're going to charge. So if we're charging $100 a week, we break it down into 3 categories. So we've got results, relationships, and client experience. And then we just define that. Results, we define that. We define relationships. Then we define client experience. And I just literally just sat there and just week after week, like that's what I spend all my day doing, is just defining shit and then trying to communicate that to my staff. So I'm like, cool, this is what it looks like on paper. This is what it looks like in person. Go and do it. I'll watch you do it. And then I'm going to tell you whether it was done well or whether we need to refine the system. And then literally just started one after another. And you see something get done and you're like, fuck, that didn't work. Let's do it this way. And then you do it again. And then 8 years later, it's finally starting to take shape.
I feel like you just made that sound extremely simple, because I feel like what you just talked about there is like essentially what every entrepreneur, every business owner who gets to that point in their life, they've realized that they can no longer do everything by themselves. They need to start creating systems. Like, we start on this journey somewhere, and you just made it. So please let me in on more. Like, tell me, like, how did you start? How did you even come to a point where you realize that defining shit is how you need to start?
Yeah. The term define, communicate, and hold, that was a guy called, which I didn't know his name, Logan, over in California. I followed him for a bit, and we actually did one of his courses that was for coaches. And one of the things was define, communicate, hold. I was like, oh, that's a really great model for anything, right? So like anytime you want to change an outcome or have an outcome, you need to make sure the first step is you define what it is that you're talking about in black and white. So we use it for literally everything in our business. We define what the definition of done is. And then we have a way that we communicate it, whether it's on paper, in person, through video, of exactly how you could do that process to get the standard that you want. Then at the end of it, it's like the hold or manage, where essentially you go through a training process where I go, you watch me do it, then we do it together, and then you do it on your own, and I'll just give you constant feedback on you doing it. So we do lots and lots of feedback. Like, I created what I call 5 stars. So we have a 5-star for everything. So if you did a session tomorrow, I've got a criteria, and for each of those criteria, you get marked 1 out of 5. 1 to 5. So like, how well you manage the group, how well your presence and attitude was, whether you defined, communicated, held the standards of movement, like those type of things. So we just like literally, I'll just build it out as we go. And it's pretty overwhelming to try and wrap your head around it when you look back at it. But at the time, it was just one after another.
And in terms of like upholding these standards, is that primarily your job, or are there other people now within your team who are also upholding those, managing those standards?
Yeah, a bit of both. And that's probably takes the longest time because, it's to get change, the frequency of exposure to feedback needs to be fast and constant. And obviously me being one person to get to 3 gyms and then to have the time to have feedback sessions with, 16 staff does get it's almost unattainable. So I do rely on the managers to do that. And then it's a case of managing the managers to manage them. And it's, there's a lot of steps now, whereas it used to be a lot easier when there was one gym.
So, okay, let's rewind again. You started your second gym. It didn't work. You realized why it didn't work. You started building systems. How did you then go from going back to one gym, building systems, to now having 3?
Yeah. So we held on, and I was a little bit, apprehensive to open a second one, and gym popped up.
Can I just interrupt you there, Brandon, real quick? But why was there a need to have to open a second one? Like, was it that your current gym was just maxed out, you didn't have any more space, and you wanted more?
Yeah, we maxed out, and we were sort of at this stage where we couldn't really add any more revenue to that. I probably could have gone a different business. I think I started doing other stuff at the time, but I was like, oh, it'd be good to see if I could go again. And I think that sort of ego took over, and I wanted to do it just to see if I could.
In hindsight, would you have still done that, or would you stay with one and ventured into other areas?
I'm glad I did, to be honest. I don't regret doing it. Like, it's been a lot of work, but it's opened up so many more doors of opportunity because it's forced me to constantly create more systems, which has now led to my business consulting company. That it's like I've been through the ringer on all of this stuff. Like, there's nothing I couldn't help you with in running a fitness business. Yes. There's generally an answer as to why your business isn't doing as well as it is, and I can 99% sure that I could help you figure out why that is and then give you a solution. So it's like the experience of going through all that, probably the same as like the experience of going through so many injuries as a kid, led me to being to the standard of coaching that I went to, because I was like, I don't want anyone else to go through this. And now it's probably just led into, I went through all the trials and tribulations of running a business and starting a business that now I can pretty much, is so transferable to running someone else's business.
And so, okay, in this process, so when you make the decision to now give it another crack and open up a second gym again, what do you do differently the second time?
I bought a gym that was already existing, but that actually, in hindsight, wasn't the best idea either. A CrossFit gym came up, so I was like, CrossFit, cool, awesome, like that's similar to what we do. It's going to be easy. I'll just take over their clients, and that'll be good to go. But the gym that we took over ran a separate model to us. He wanted out because he was moving away. He'd been doing it for 10 years. He was like one of the first CrossFits. I think he was the first CrossFit in Sydney.
What was the name?
And he was CrossFit Ignite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Sydney.
Yeah.
And, he ended up, I got a super sweet deal. Like, at the end of it, he wanted a price, and I sort of was working on my negotiation skills at the time. So I thought it was pretty fun to try and get a super low price, and ended up settling on that super low price. So I was pretty happy with that. And then, I didn't know at the time that it would have been a lot harder than what I imagined, because he was running like you pay your money, you come in, we'll write your program, and you do that program in your own time. So you could start at 6 a.m.
model, yeah.
Individualized model, similar to like the OPEX.
Yeah.
And we run group classes, and obviously the whole point of running 2 gyms is the model of scale that you can run. And we kept it how it was for a few months, and then the day that I was like, oh, we're going to switch over now, literally 50% of the members who were paying that money were like, I'm out. Fuck, back to square one. So paid all this money for a gym. And it still worked out to be a pretty good deal in the end. Like, by the time you pay for the equipment, by the time you pay for the DAs and get the gym set up, it would have been pretty much even, to be honest. So that was a few tough months. And at one stage I said to my partner, I was like, fuck, I made a big mistake here again. Like, it looks like this multiple gym thing isn't for me. And then we ran a bit of a marketing campaign, and we got like 30 members one month and got us back in the green, and didn't look back. Like, I've got a great manager over there, Dan. He runs a really good ship. And yeah, he's been a massive catalyst in that. And yeah, without him, it probably wouldn't be as good as what it is now. So.
And then, so what did these systems that you'd started building before this, like, how did that then come to fruition when you opened your second place?
Yeah, and that's when they really started to take shape. Was like they were all theoretical at that stage, because I could always just jump in when it was one gym and like didn't really have to use the systems. But then we started seeing, like, here's how to run a month, like a weekly checklist, make sure these things are done. And then if they're done and they still don't change the revenue, then we need to change the system. So yeah, it took shape, and it really started. You could see what it was like to stand back from a business and not be the only one in there, and that it could still be successful.
Can I ask, like, honestly, was that hard for you? To be like the face of the business who'd always been in there and obviously like had a big impact on your business, to then realize that if you wanted to open two places, it needed to be less about you and you kind of need to actually detach from yourself. Was that a challenging process?
Yeah, I always wanted that. I always wanted to not be the face, because I think I got so burnt out from having to manage so many relationships in the one gym. Like when we had 150 members at Paddington, it started to become like too cliquey. Like I was too close to the members, that it was almost, I was unfulfilled, because I just like felt like, and nothing I could do was right. And there started to be like niggles within the communities of like little cliques popping up. So I was actually pretty happy to get away from all that and just focus on what I like doing, which was getting the programs to the people, to the clients, and then managing the business. So for me, it was actually good.
How did you go from 2 to 3? What was that? Does it get easier? I mean, I only have one gym, and obviously we've got lots of stuff online, but sometimes, and like you're hearing about this, it's like the thought of having a second gym really scares me, because I know how much work has gone into one, and I know that systems would be so important if you were to make two work. But what was the process like going from? Was it the same going 1 to 2, from 2 to 3?
Yeah, well, the third gym now, so we had to open up a third location because we knew that our first one was getting demolished. It was just on a knockdown clause, the building we were in. So they only gave us they only had to give us 30 days. So we knew that could be at any stage, and we knew that it was coming up quickly. So we're like, oh shit, we should start looking. And where we are, it's super expensive rent. Like I'm sure Hong Kong's the same. Like we ended up finding another warehouse, which is on a knockdown clause, which works to our favor because we can move pretty quickly if we can find something. So yeah, we had the third, and that went okay to start with. And then that got, it finally got demolished. So we moved all our clients across to there. So that was sort of pretty easy for that. And then the third one now, which was our fourth, so we had 4 at one stage, is in North Sydney. And that was another gym that we bought because they were selling at a super low price. And I was like, oh, fuck it. Why not? Let's put these systems to test.
And essentially, I guess you just copy and pasted what you'd done already with the second
year. Yeah. And it was quite lucky. Like the guy that was helping me at Waterloo at our second location, he was the 2RC over there. And I sort of realized like he was a really great coach. And I was like, he's got a lot of potential. I don't want to see him get bored in being 2RC forever, because the top manager was never leaving. Like he's in the business now, so he's staying there. So I was like, oh, cool. I'll give Brady a chance to go and open his own and see how it goes. So
talk me through this, like, because we do something very similar, but I guess it's giving your coaches who have talents perhaps outside of coaching an opportunity to grow within your business and to potentially not be just a coach forever. Tell me about, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a massive thing, like giving the growth plan. Like when I speak to other businesses now, that it's just them and the business partner, and everyone else is like subcontractors. They have a lot of struggle with retention of staff because I think they can't see into the long term. They're like, this is just a job for me. I need to make some money because I'm doing this. Like when we hire our staff now, we let them know of that growth plan and development. Like this could be a career and a very lucrative one if you can make it work. So I think it works to our favor by offering that. They can see that we've opened 3 locations. They're like, oh, cool. Like that's my dream. I want to open a gym. There's a very clear path of how we're going to get you there if you can just hang around.
Because I agree. It's like, I mean, I was that person which is what was my motivation to then give that to the people around me. You know, I was just a coach, and I realized at some point I didn't just want to be the coach forever. And then, you know, you end up owning a business and you realize there's all these other amazing things, also really hard things, but these other amazing things that you have talents and skill sets in. And it's like, if I can do that for myself, why can't I give that to my team? And why can't I allow them to have that same experience? Rather than them, you know, get to the 10-year mark as a coach and realize that, fuck, this isn't what I want to do forever.
Yeah. And I really enjoy being able to provide those opportunities for my staff, because obviously I spend a lot more time with just them now. And that's my focus, is the coaches and my team, because I can't get around to every single member like I used to. I still love seeing the members that I got close with, but I can't have, I think we've got 870 something members at the moment, last check. So I can't have 870 relationships. I've got to have 15 really strong ones with my coaches. And I really enjoy being able to provide that next step for them and follow suit.
So what does your job look like now, Brandon? Are you doing any coaching?
No coaching at the moment, which I do like coaching. I get, I think because I did it so intensely for like the first 3 years when it was just me, that was like my quota, and I was pretty happy to hang up the boots for a little while. I think one day I was saying to my partner Asha, like, when we eventually move on and maybe move out of the busyness of Sydney, like, I'd love to open another gym and to have it super small and not be worried about growing it into like a massive empire, just like try and meet the members again. But day to day for me, I don't coach. I just wake up. I've got meetings on all day Monday with like each manager. So that's my meeting day. I spend a lot of time just analyzing like the data. So I'm really driven on data. So our tracking system, and I just sort of see, you know, if that's out, why is that out? What can we improve? And then I go and try and make systems or trainings on how we can move forward.
Awesome. Can you actually just take me through your week? I'm just super interested to know what it actually looks like.
What do we got? Mondays is my BBB day, so I have to do everything pretty much for the gyms, well, just meetings. But because I've started a lot of different companies in the last like 6 months, I've started sort of really running out of time and trying to manage, and it's pretty overwhelming. So Tuesdays I try and work a lot on creating content for Kaizen, which is our business consulting. And even that, like, you know, you try things, because I've got a business partner in that. It's like having meetings with him, what works, what didn't work, what can we create for the clients, what can we create for marketing. So most of my time is either creating systems for clients or creating trainings for my managers or creating content for marketing. That's pretty much the crux of what I do. And then it just depends on, which business I'm working on.
Keep on going, bro. I'm loving this. Keep on taking me through Wednesday.
Right.
Because the reason I ask is that, you know, it's like I think from the outside, you know, you see business, like successful people or people who are running businesses or multiple gyms, and it's like, I know that there's other people who are perhaps also running a gym, and they haven't found a way to make it as efficient yet. And so, you know, they're burning the candle at both ends. And I think the vision, the image that people have of someone like you who's running 3 gyms, is like, fuck, if I'm working this hard running one, like, how is this guy making it work? You know, and obviously, like, it's not you've what you've done, you've scaled yourself, so you're not in the nitty-gritty of doing the things that the single entrepreneur business owner was doing, which is probably what you were once doing and what I was certainly once doing as well. So please, I'm actually just genuinely fascinated to hear, like, take me through the rest of your week. So Tuesday, work on your Kaizen, your business mentorship stuff. What are we doing on a Wednesday?
Wednesday, I generally, it's fairly open by the look of it, but I generally don't have that much spare time. Depending on when I train as well. So I generally try and get to a gym each day. And if I can, it generally blows out my day a fair bit. Like, I go there and I book out 2 hours to be there. I'm generally there for like 3 or 4, you know, fixing shit or just looking at shit around the facility. So that does blow out. So there's already 4 hours of my day gone. Lately, it's been a bit harder because I've been with Rupee in the morning, my son. So that's sort of like anywhere from 6 o'clock till sometimes 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, where I don't get any work done, which I used to do a bit of marketing. So now already, like, my 14-hour days have been limited to like 8 to 10, which for me, I've probably got 15 hours of work to do each day. So I'm always feeling like I'm behind. But yeah, generally I'll try and block out like 2 or 3 hours for creating content for Kaizen a week, 2 or 3 hours a week to block out for the academy, and then sort of like 2 or 3 hours per business, so BV, Kaizen, and academy to make content for socials. And then the rest of the week sort of meetings somehow pop up with my VA or, you know, with someone that I need to give feedback on. And yeah, I always find time just to give, like, things always pop into my diary around giving feedback because I write down so many notes. I like get thoughts out of my head. I'm like, this happened, write it down. And then eventually I end up just having so many notes. I've got to try and speak to people and give them feedback because otherwise I'm the only one that has the feedback in my head.
Mm. Do you work 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week?
Yeah, I don't really work Saturday, I suppose. Like I sort of, if I get time in the afternoon, I'll do stuff. Yeah, I've managed to get down to 5 days, I suppose. Yeah. I haven't worked on Saturday, Sunday for a long time, which is cool. Like I'll jump in and do some stuff and catch up for the next week. But generally most of my stuff is Monday to Friday.
I imagine that's not what it probably looked like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Nah, there's definitely a lot more full on. I go through that with my clients in the business consulting is like sort of the perfect day and a bit of time blocking. So it's like the first thing is obviously when you're the solopreneur, you're doing the coaching, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the sales, you're doing maybe if you've got a staff member, some feedback sessions and stuff like that. And then I show them the progression of what it can look like to be more of a manager and then more of a CEO and then hopefully more of an investor in your own business where you just manage the manager.
Could you ever envision that this is what your job would look like? You know, when you like started Body by Brando all those years ago, did you think that you'd be in this position where you'd actually not be coaching and you'd just be, you know, basically, you know, being a business owner and a manager?
No, I didn't really have anyone to model it off either. So I'm pretty happy that it did work out this way. Like I remember all the business coaches people that I followed on Instagram that gave consulting advice was always like, work on your business, not in your business. And I think I just took that to the extreme and I felt like a failure if I was doing any sort of work in my business. And at times, like it got super overwhelming and I was like, fuck, like how do these people make it? How do they make that happen? And I think I just took that to the extreme and was working like, even though I was coaching 20, 30 hours a week, I would spend the rest of the time literally start at 5, finish at 8, and any gaps I had that I wasn't coaching, I'd be just writing systems.
That's so good. I feel like I did the opposite. I just I knew it was what I needed to do, and I'd listened to I'd read every book on like entrepreneurship and business ownership. I'd like every mentor had said like, you need to stop coaching, you need to actually start running your business. And I knew it was what I needed to do, but I felt so much guilt around stopping. I think there was 2 things actually. It was like there was the guilt part in feeling like I had a team of people around me, and at that point in time, I thought what the team valued was the fact that I was in the trenches coaching with them, and that's what was making me a good leader. The fact that like we were grinding it out together, and Ed wasn't thinking that he was like on this pedestal, when actually, which is ridiculous, what they actually needed was a leader and someone to lead them and build a future for them. And you realize this later. So I think number 1 was like the guilt that if I stopped coaching or reduced my coaching hours to actually work on the business, that my coaches would resent me and they would feel that I was a weak leader by not actually doing the work with them. And I realized I had actually created that mentality because that's what I had put onto everyone else, that you need to work hard. And if you're not working hard coaching, then you're not a good coach. And so I took, full ownership and responsibility for that. So I think a second part to that is also, and I think there's still a lot of this that I'm still working through, is like the change of identity, from being the coach your whole life and that being your reputation and what you really love doing and what brought you into business in the first place. And then realizing actually at some point that actually I really enjoyed the business side. I'm also good at the business side. And at some point I'm probably going to have to be the person to make that transition, to move away from coaching, to be the business owner, to be more of the entrepreneur. And I think, for a lot of coaches, there's that identity crisis where it's like, shit, this has been me for so long. I have to let go of that now to now become this other person I know I want to be, that I know I should be, but it's like, I can't let go of that,
100%. And I mean, that resonates with me so hard because I did the exact same thing. And, I've been through that, like times where I started letting go of coaching and I was like, oh, I'm going to let go of like, it wasn't as smooth as what I sort of, the recap there was. Like, there was definitely times where I went through and I started coaching less. And then I was, felt the same. I was like, the clients are going to resent me because I'm not there anymore. And I built such great relationships with them. And now I'm just giving them another coach. And then also the staff, I was like, fuck, if I'm not in there at 5 a.m., like why would they want to be in there at 5 a.m. if I'm just sitting on my laptop at home? And I still do struggle with that because I don't know if people realize how much I do work. Like, I don't just sit at home. Like, I'm literally on my laptop from probably 6 a.m. till most days, if I'm not training, back on until dinner's ready. And then sometimes after, like, there's times where I don't have to, and I probably should stop working. But yeah, I'm the same as you, what you said then. I was like, oh, fuck, if I don't lead from the front and do 15-hour days, then how can I expect them to do 15-hour split shifts?
So tell me, like, now it sounds like you're not, obviously you as well are still dealing with some of these things as well. But, if the perception was that my staff are going to resent me, my clients are going to resent me, but you've actually gone through and done it now, what had actually happened? Did your staff resent you and did your clients resent you?
I don't think the staff resent me now because I think they do realize how much work goes into it. And then, I log them with Slack messages. So I'm assuming they know I'm online. And, I still don't like, I've always been a little bit apprehensive about, posting that I'm down at the beach during work hours and stuff, because I wouldn't want them to see that and be like, oh, fuck yeah, he's down. Like, why does he get to go to the beach and we're here slogging? So I probably still do have some of that identity issue there where I have every right to be down at the beach if I wanted to. Like, it's my business and I've made it, but I still do have a little bit of guilt around that. I just got back from the snow this week. I had 3 days off, and yeah, I did feel a little bit guilty about doing that, even though my staff probably take more holidays than I did.
Yeah.
The clients got over it pretty quick. A lot of them left at some stage, so it wasn't smooth sailing. Like, we went through a stage where they'd leave, and then they ended up trying out gyms in the local area, and then they came back. So we obviously did something right.
Can I ask you, it's like, is there ever a point where you feel, all right, Brandon, you've done enough now, it's time to just slow down? Or, because I feel like there's a lot in you that I really resonate with as well, which is like, I always want to be moving the needle forward, always want to be getting after the next thing, always want to be growing, always want to be challenging myself. And the idea of just sitting still and not progressing makes me almost feel a bit uncomfortable. Feels like a waste. I've got this talent, this ability, and this opportunity, and I don't want to not realize it. Like, do you think about that?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, that's definitely my biggest downfall, and not knowing when to switch it off. And it does obviously lead to, other issues that come along with that. So that would be the ultimate outcome, is to eventually one day be like, cool, you've got enough. Like, just slow down, enjoy the present. But yeah, I probably didn't do that. I thought I was going to do that this year, and then I ended up starting a retreat company and getting pretty heavily involved with that, which is taking up a lot of time. So I needed, yeah, maybe next year.
What do you think? What do you think it is that keeps you in the fight all the time?
Yeah, I speak pretty openly about this too. Well, he's not a psychologist by any means, but he's someone I talk to on regular occasion to keep me in check, because I think that's my, I would hate to burn the candle at both ends and end up giving up on everything. So I spoke to him about this the other week, and it does come back to a little bit of that guilt and shame around, you have been given this opportunity, you do have the skill set to do it. The family that I grew up with, we weren't wealthy by any means. Like, we were comfortable, but I was like, fuck, I want to be wealthy. And then as it started, I just have a fear of going backwards. So I feel like if I stopped today, things would start to deteriorate, and that would really, I think, bother me. So I need to get more comfortable with letting things slow down, I think, before I can slow down.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I struggle with the exact same thing. And
yeah,
also something cool. I have to keep on questioning myself as well. It's like, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
When is that point going to come? Because I often think about my days, my weeks, and I'm a 14-year business this year, And, I've just moved to essentially coach, only being in the gym 5 days a week, which is, huge for me. I made that commitment, just a few months ago, because, before that it was forever 6 days a week. And then there was 3 years where it was 7 days a week. And, you ask yourself the question, it's like, do I want to be 40 still working 6 days a week, still grafting 15 hours a day? And it's like, how much other life am I missing out on by doing this? And it's like, I still feel the fire in me every day to do what I'm doing right now. And I'd still really, really love it. But there are certainly times where, especially for us, right now we are in a position where Hong Kong has kind of just opened its borders again, and people are going on their first holidays in 3 years. And, I'm seeing people, traveling around the world again and having a great time. And, I'm kind of asking myself, like, well, what's keeping me here right now? It's like my business has gone through some of the hardest years in the last 14 years. I'm not in a position to be leaving my team and my membership, my business right now. But it's kind of like, but at the same time, I would love to be able to just get on a plane and go on a holiday and travel and, do all these things that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to explore this for us, off air if we need to, because I think we're in a very similar position where, and we talk about this with business consulting that I do with Mario in our Kaizen group is, it's like a Venn diagram where we talk about, I don't know if I can share or anything, but it's the Venn diagram where essentially you got 3 overlapping parts, and that's money, and then you got meaning, and then you got freedom, right? And so if you've got, money and you've got freedom, but you don't have any meaning, then you're going to be unfulfilled in what you're doing. So you're probably not going to be super happy. If you've got meaning and you've got freedom, but you don't have money, then you're obviously broke and you don't have that ability to go and do the things that you want to do. And if you've got money and you've got meaning, but you don't have the freedom, then you're sort of enslaved with what you're doing, and you're a slave to your own company, which is, what you just said then was very similar. Like the business over the last few years hasn't gone so great. So now, like, you're trying to get the money and meaning, like you've got the money and meaning, but you don't have the freedom to go and travel. So we try and work on that. And we only really came up with that a month or so ago. So I'm going to put into practice for myself and try and figure out a definition on when I would be happy to sort of let things go and set myself targets of like, cool, if you hit this target across all 3, say for I rated it from 1 to 10 on money, meaning, and freedom, I'd have a definition for what was a 1, what was a 10. And I'm going to try and put an objective scale to those 3 processes.
Well, it doesn't surprise me after knowing you for the last hour that you're going to put a scale on it and an opportunity to rate it. But I do actually love that money, meaning, and freedom. And that's already actually really resonated with me. I think, as a leader, I having experienced burnout for so many years, and now, our business mission is all about sustainability in the way that we coach people, but also sustainability for us, like first and foremost as coaches. And the last thing I want is for anyone in my team to ever experience burnout. I do believe like hard work is an important part of it. And like, I think people who are part of our organization are always going to be hard workers, but it shouldn't come at the cost of anything else, like something like freedom. But as much as I'm good at preaching it to others, I'm probably still not the best at doing it on myself. And I think that's where I need to continue to work on. And if I'm gonna say to my team that sustainability is important and having a balance of those 3 is important, then I need to obviously be leading by example. And it's I'm not leading by example if I'm not doing that myself.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like, because I mean, at some stage in a capitalist society, if you don't have that drive to get people close to burnout, like, well, not that you have to push people close to burnout, but it's like if you set the bar as like, oh, on our lunch breaks, we're just going to play ping pong and eat sandwiches and go to the beach. It's like, when do you ever get that chance to have your money and freedom? Because obviously you're giving it to everyone else underneath you. And it's a really hard concept to play with, being the boss, I think, because whilst it would be great, I think that sort of leads more towards that, lack of a better term, communist workplace where everyone's equal and the only one that misses out is the boss, even though you're putting your risk into the business, because when it goes shit, I guarantee you're the one that sort of cops it, not them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think sustainability is a massive part. So, finding, if you can find that balance between not burning yourself out and staff out, I think that's a massive win. And that's what we're trying to do at the moment as well, trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
Of how many hours of coaching.
And the more I think about it, it's like I don't think you're ever going to find a sustainable balance, as contradicting as that sounds. It's like, I do think that balance is going to come in ebbs and flows. There's got to be periods of time where you graft your ass off and that is a priority, but then there's got to be other times where grafting is not the priority and you've got the time to do the other things. But it's like when you zoom out and you look back at a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, like you've got to see some form of balance there. It can't just all be skewed towards one.
Yeah. And that's why I think, we're going to work on putting a bit of a scale behind those three things. So you're going to have periods of intensity and periods of maintenance, similar to how we train, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like if you constantly maintain, you're probably going to be in the same position you're in 5 years' time. But if you're willing to move the needle on pushing the money and you're willing to work for 15 hours a day for the next 6 months, we're going to build the money up and actually see that come up. And then we can move our shift towards an intensification on freedom. And
yes,
that means that we're going to try and sustain the same money, but have a day off in the process.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think that's
the training.
Yeah, I think that's got to be our mission for the next little while, is trying to see how I can help business owners do that, but also help my team do that as well, so they can actually have a life outside the gym and not feel shackled to working for me.
Awesome. Well, me too. Let's share our successes with each other and our
failures. Yeah, let's do it. Sure.
All right, Brandon, I guess my last question for you is kind of like, I guess we touched on the future a little bit. It sounds like you're a very busy man with your hands in lots of different pies at the moment, but like, what is the immediate future looking like for you? Is there anything exciting on the horizon?
Yeah. Looking forward to, I'm going to Bali in a few days. We're going to spend a month over there.
I'm going to Bali in 2 weeks.
Hey, we can catch up. I'm there for a month.
Awesome.
So I've got that. And then, I think in business wise, really getting the 3 gyms at the moment to a great stable base, so that I can start to shift my focus into, maybe making some more time for myself and focusing on the business coaching, which I'm really enjoying, and seeing where that takes me.
Awesome. Well, listen, Brandon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I really appreciate the sacrifice on a Friday night over there. Sounds like you're doing some amazing things, and I'm looking forward to seeing like the future of everything that you're creating in all these different avenues. And especially on the sustainability stuff, I'm looking forward to seeing how you navigate that and implement it.
Perfect, bro. Thank you.
Awesome.